Hi, Miss Groban.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
I can run a Zoom with 16. I do this every day. Not a problem for me. Should we begin because we're already running a little late?
Do we have any more coming in, or are we good at 21?
I can barely hear you, Ms. Freeman.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there you go.
There you are, Ms.
Thank
Freeman.
you. Thank you. Testing out a new location today.
Ooh.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to Curriculum Night. My name is Miss Freeman. I have been at Holmes for 3 years now. This is my 5th year teaching.
I am Ms. Kalala. This is my 21st year at Holmes and also my 21st year teaching.
I am Mr. Lopez. This is my 3rd year at Holmes, and this is my 8th year teaching.
And hello, I'm Miss Conway, and this is my 9th year at homeschool and my year 17 teaching.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we are recording.
Yes, we are recording. So we do ask that families keep themselves on mute and turn their camera off so that we can share this presentation without having to reveal any of your identities. So again, please keep your microphones off and your camera should also be off.
All right, to get started, we wanted to express to you guys our 1st grade philosophy. We believe each child is unique and we recognize the importance of individual differences. We believe in the dignity and worth of each person. We believe each child can become an independent, creative thinker. We believe a love of learning is essential to lifelong learning. Our 1st grade curriculum includes Lucy Calkins' phonics, reading, and writing units of study. Those are all the workshop model. We use the Eureka curriculum for math, Houghton Mifflin social studies, Haggerty phonemic awareness, Leader in Me, and Second Step, which you heard about in our school Zoom just now, and of course, all our special area classes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got overexcited. I was so excited. I needed to hear about all of them. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, my bad. I'm not touching.
So for language arts for literacy, we have a balanced literacy approach, and this includes read alouds, shared reading, which we do together as a class, guided reading, which is small group instruction, and of course, independent reading where a student is reading on their own. Our instruction focus includes comprehension, vocabulary, phonemic awareness, phonics, spelling, fluency, grammar, and writing.
So we wanted to share a little bit about what this is going to look like for your child, some of these different components of our curriculum. And so you just heard about the units of study, which is our reading and our writing curriculum in particular. And they do follow a workshop model, which means basically, what can you expect for your child when they are learning remotely, is that they're going to start their lessons or start their reading time or their writing time with a short mini lesson that's going to be maybe about 10 minutes. And that's going to be that synchronous time that you've probably heard about, that time that we're learning together live. Then it's going to switch to that independent work time. And that's going to be that asynchronous time that the students are going to be working more independently. But it is possible that during a day, the student is going to be working independently and then move to a breakout room in order to work with their teacher, or even a small group during that time for a short period. Then we would come back together as a group again in live time, in synchronous time, and we would have a quick share out for just a couple minutes. That's to give you an idea of what our workshop model will look like. So what would be in our writing and our reading units? These are some of the things that you might see, or that your child might be learning. They're going to have a narrative writing unit where they're going to write about a short moment in time. They're going to have information writing, where they'll be writing their own books in which they can teach others. And then they'll be doing some opinion writing, which they'll be writing reviews, sharing their thoughts and opinions about different items and different things. So some of the writing skills throughout these units might include things like using elaboration in their writing, giving details, writing beginnings or endings. And we also use published books as models for our students for things to try out in our own writing. And just so you know, that we have things a little bit different in our writing that may be different from the way our generation learned to write. We don't expect perfection in spelling and in their writing, and we kind of encourage the kids to go through and cross things out, revise, add things in. And so their writing may not look perfect or be perfectly spelled, and that is a great thing, because that means that they're thinking, getting through the writing process, working on revising and making those changes and edits.
I also want to add since we are remote and we are working on writing and not really typing, as that can be really hard, we found in the spring for students. So we're asking that all writing be done on paper, so that the kids can just very quickly get their ideas out, add drawings that are not done digitally, and then take a picture of their writing and then upload it to Seesaw, which we started learning about this week. So always have writing paper and pencils on hand so that they're ready to write at a moment's notice.
That's right. And students, on that note, they will be starting to write on a story one day and then the next day going back to add on more. So they're going to want to be prepared with keeping all of their stories or their teaching books or whatever it may be all together with them in one spot or one folder. And then here are some of the concepts that are going to show up in the reading units. Certainly not limited to these, but this is to give you an idea of some of the skills and strategies. We're going to start by building good habits for independent reading before, during, and after reading. Building good habits throughout the year for solving those words that we don't know and figuring them out. Things like checking the picture or trying out a sound that a letter might make 2 different ways or even more than 2 different ways. Breaking the word up into parts that they know. We're also going to be learning about checking to make sure a word is correct after we've tried to solve that word. And we'll ask ourselves, does it look right? Does it look like with the letters and the sounds that we know that they may make? Does it sound right in the sentence? And does it make sense and fit with the picture and what's happening in the story? We'll also be having our nonfiction reading, where we'll be learning a lot about the text features that show up in nonfiction, like headings, captions, keywords, and things like that. And of course, we'll also be doing some comprehension, including lots of retell of stories and thinking about the characters, the lessons they learn, et cetera, et cetera. So then we also have another unit of study, which is phonics, and it also follows a kind of a shortened version of the workshop model, a little bit scaled down. And again, we're gonna have a mini lesson, some independent time. The kids may work in a breakout room with a small group or a partner, or maybe independent, and then come back together again. And we have our favorite friend on the last slide that you just saw, Rashid. you're going to probably hear your kids talking about him or see the silly lion bopping across the screen if you're looking in on Zoom, and he is our phonics friend that the kids just love. Some of the concepts that the students are going to be learning throughout the year in phonics are going to be snap words that you might refer to also as sight words. We call them snap words in our phonics program. Consonant blends, digraphs, short vowels and long vowel sounds, focusing on that silent E a whole lot. Vowel teams, contractions and compound words, and R control vowels.
So for math, we are using Eureka Math, which we've used for several years. It's a pretty rigorous program. The children are going to be learning about measurement and data, operations and algebraic thinking, number and operations in base 10, and geometry. And basically what we have found through the years of doing this workshop model is that it even lends itself to math instruction. So typically we start off a little slower so that the children can get used to kind of the rhythm of the math unit, what the pages look like, how to solve problems, and just some of the ins and outs of what's being asked of them. And we have found that they very quickly grasp onto those concepts, and then they're just ready for more, and then we can differentiate their instruction. So we usually use a little bit of a workshop model, a short mini lesson, some independent work time. We definitely take use of that win time to work with small groups and do small group instruction so that we can differentiate depending on your students' needs in the area of math. Science. We have 3 major science units. We have our physical science unit, which is light and sound, which is what we're starting with. Earth science, which is air and weather. And then life science, which is plant and animal survival. We have all kind of fallen in love with our science and science units. And our science lessons are based around a single story, and then we build around it. We make anchor charts, and we do experiments, and it turns out to be one of our favorite days of the week, I would say. For social studies, we are studying people everywhere, so differences in people, where you live, communities, the world of work, where we talk about needs and wants, and parents seem to appreciate that because we point out that not everything that they want is something that they need to survive. So you can thank us later when you can say, is that really a need or a want? Everything changes. We talk about history, which is actually where we're starting our social studies unit this year, looking at how families change throughout time, and then just being good citizens, the difference between rules and laws and how they're similar and how they're different. Second step you heard about in the school presentation, our whole school presentation, and during second step, we do second step every Wednesday for 30 minutes, and it focuses on empathy training, impulse control, anger management. There's a bully prevention section of lessons, and then personal safety comes later on in the year. We started second step today, so we talked about skills for learning. We talked about how to be a good listener, how to use your eyes, your ears, your body, and quiet mouths to help you be a good learner. And it helps children relate. So we post pictures, we have conversations about the pictures. There's a lot of scenarios that happen, and the children kind of discuss their feelings, how something makes them feel, and how they would solve those conflicts that they're seeing in the scenarios. Special area classes. So the children have already started having gym, music, and art. They have those 3 specials for 60 minutes a week, and they get 90 minutes of Spanish instruction a week. So they have Spanish 3 days a week, and then we have library instruction for 30 minutes a week. And so the nice thing about specials is the specials teachers come into our Zoom, so the children don't have to be bouncing around. You might see your child sitting in a waiting room and without a teacher, and that is the transition. So it's either one specials teacher coming and another specials teacher going, and so they have to leave the kids in the waiting room. And so we always remind our kids, if you go in the waiting room, just wait. I'll be there, or the next teacher will be there. I know we've had a couple of panic situations over the last week, but it's nice for them. They love that time, and they're continuing to see friendly faces of teachers that they love, and they're getting up and they're moving around a lot. So that's our special area classes.
So we have three simple school rules: be respectful, be responsible, and safe. And in a school setting, we would have had a couple of sessions where we teach the students how to be respectful, responsible, and safe in the different environments. But right now we're mostly focusing on being respectful, responsible, and safe within the virtual space. So much like we discussed in our whole group presentation, we have that poster with the images that shows exactly what we expect students to do. And then you would notice today in our our second step lesson, we were also teaching them how to be respectful, responsible, and safe listeners. So you'll hear us really honing in on these three things. They're pretty simple and they can be applied to school and outside of the school setting. So they're really important to us. And then we kind of carry that over into Leader in Me. So we have been focusing the first 8 days on Leader in Me instruction, which is why you haven't seen a whole lot of academics. We are really trying to instill these 7 habits that are supposed to embody an effective leader and a happy child. So you'll hear us talking about being proactive, which is just having the students really take charge of themselves, beginning with the end in mind, really thinking about what they want the end goal of their schoolwork, their life, and many other projects along the way to look like before they start. So they have a clear goal in mind. We want them to prioritize the most important things before they really go into the enjoyment ideas. So that's why we say put first things first. And then the fourth habit, think win-win, which is trying to find a common ground for everyone so that everyone can be happy. Habit number 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. This is that whole philosophy of really listening before you talk. Then lesson 6, or habit 6, which was today's lesson, which is synergize, which is the idea of together is better. And then sharpen the saw, which is just trying to take care of yourself so that you can be the leader that we hope you are, or that you become. And then this year we will continue to work on some project-based learning, and this will be supported by Ms. Circo. She'll come in for 6 weeks and she will work on some projects with students. The first 6-week cycle begins this week. She'll come in for 30 minutes. She'll do a guided research project with the students, and then we will carry those skills over to our own project-based learning without Ms. Circo, where students will get to identify something that they want to learn about and then take off and create a project that they are proud of. And this will continue within the virtual setting. It will just really depend on the resources at home that students rely on to help them, and also the resources that we provide them to do the research. So using online books to help guide that research or to help dig into the research. And then we have our Hawk's Nest, which will take place also once a week. It is starting, I believe, does anyone remember when it's starting? October. So it's usually the first Wednesday of October where the students transition to a different class or a different nest led by a different teacher. And they get to learn different Leader in Me skills. They get to learn about different missions that the school is trying to push forward. They get to do fun activities with a wide range of grade levels and a new teacher. So it's really exciting. We're going to keep a similar format, but students are going to travel to different classrooms, or the teachers will travel to the students will travel to different classrooms so that they get to get that instruction similarly to what we were doing in the previous school year. And then we have our next slide, which is how we're going to support how you and I can, or teachers, homeschool, and you can work together to make sure that your child is learning. So we really, really ask that you visit, whether it's the classroom website that a teacher has created, a Bitmoji Classroom, or their traditional website, or just their weekly class newsletters. We ask that you visit those so that you can stay up to date with announcements, changes, anything that may happen throughout the week, the learning things and the things that you can do to help support your child, and to talk to your child about what's happening in school. Number one, my favorite is read with your child. I love reading. My colleagues always joke that if I could, I would teach reading all day, every day, which is pretty true. I just find some great books and really try to push them on to the students. So we ask that you take 20 minutes every single night, at least 20 to 30 minutes, and really enjoy a good book. Whether that means you're reading the book to the child or the child is reading the book independently. We really don't want to push that reading time so that it's unenjoyable. So you shouldn't be forcing the child to read if they're not ready to read or they don't want to read that night. You can just read and they can follow along. A lot of research shows that it's super beneficial just for the child to hear you reading a story, or even for them to read along with you. A lot of times in the classroom, we will have the students read the same book multiple times in a week to practice fluency, just going back and picking up things that they didn't learn. So if you don't have a huge library, that is okay. Sometimes the best practice is practicing some of the books they've already read. And then making sure that your child is doing things on their own and really taking on responsibility for their learning. Answering questions on their own. A lot of times the students are looking right to their family members to give them the answer. We're really pushing for them to advocate for themselves. If they need help, ask for it, ask the teacher first. Sometimes, you're the only person who is available right at that moment, but try to really enforce that they give a voice to themselves and use it for a teacher to help them, or try first on their own. And then handing it over to Ms. Freeman, who's going to remind us about the Zoom etiquette that we're going over every day.
Thanks, Mr. Lopez. So this is the poster that students see every day. Last week we were using a different set of posters, but this week we've been using these ones. I'm sure you might have even have heard us in the background saying some of these reminders, but we've been reminding students that we want to be on time for Zoom, not just in the morning, but after our 10-minute breaks and after lunch, to be on time and to be prepared. So having their materials with them, and those materials might change once we get more into academics, but always paper and pencil, whiteboard and marker. We ask that students be present, so finding a spot where they can really focus and be free of distraction, which we understand is not always easy at home, but toys, not right by their learning spot, no food or drinks by their iPads, and definitely making sure that cameras are on. It's a lot easier for us as teachers to see that students are participating, or if they need help with something, if their cameras are on and that their faces are in front of the cameras. Muting themselves. We've been trying to figure out, different features of Zoom, the unmuting and the muting, we're obviously still working on. Finding your best spot to work. We understand, parents are working from home, siblings are also doing their learning. So just the best spot for your student. Last week and this week, we've been continuing to talk about being respectful and what that looks like and sounds like on Zoom. Of course, we're still raising our hand to talk, whether that's our real hand or our Zoom hand. Chatting responsibly. Some teachers might use this in their class. Some specialist teachers might be using this as well. And of course, making sure your device is charged. So whether that's in the afternoon after school or while students are sleeping. All right, and then I'm sure you've been hearing a lot of Seesaw talk. That's something we're continuing to work on this week with students. So there are actually two Seesaw apps. There is Seesaw Class, which is what your student is using, and then there is a Seesaw Family, one, which is for parents. And to access that, you'll either get a link or a code from your classroom teacher. And this enables you to get announcements from us. There's different ways you can get those announcements through email. You can also get them as text messages. There's also a notification spot inside the app, and you will be able to send and receive direct messages with us through the app. And then probably the most beneficial part of having this app is that you can see and comment on your students' work. Some work you might already see obviously at home, but there will be a lot of work on Seesaw. So students, I know, always like when teachers comment or like theirs, and I'm sure they would love for their parents to as well.
Oh, sorry.
All right, and finally, because technology never goes wrong, but if it does, you can always email our technology help desk at helpdesk@op97.org. If it is a tech issue, we encourage families to email them. If it's a content issue, let's say, you're not understanding a math problem or your student's writing assignment, that would be a good time to email your classroom teacher.
Thank you, Megan. So we are going to continue to, as we mentioned before, assess students to help drive our instruction. This year we will be doing virtual assessments, and we will be using a new platform that is called ESGI, which Ms. Kalala raves about. She loves it.
Love it. Love it.
And we will be assessing the reading and math skills for this year. Similarly to what we usually do. And then we will use these assessments to help determine students' strengths and weaknesses. We will use the information to determine if students need additional support through MTSS process, or if they need our just attention a little bit more than other students, or if they're ready for other additional challenges, such as enrichment. And then we'll have two types of assessments. The first one is the benchmark assessments, and these will happen each trimester. And they will be the main ones that I just suggested, the math and the reading, and all students will receive these. And this could also be such as word study, writing, reading, and math. That's what I meant earlier when I said the other subjects. And they will, again, guide our instruction, and these will be delivered to all students. Then we have our classroom assessments, which our classroom assessments will also be reading, writing, word study, and math. And they will, again, guide our instruction. But these will happen a little bit more frequently. We'll have a pre-test and a post-test, and they will be focused on our unit. So they will happen a little bit more frequently. And those are just going to be to help guide our deliverance of our core curriculum. And then our celebrations are going to be a little bit different this year. We will continue to celebrate students for their academic achievements and their social climbs or their social achievements. But we're also going to be having to be a little more creative. They're going to gain skills in collaboration and creativity and community and critical thinking, but we're also going to be celebrating through project-based learning and choice boards. So celebrations are going to look a little bit different, but we're going to really try to push that those extra activities are their celebrations for helping them learn. So that pretty much wraps up our presentation for today. We really appreciate you guys being in attendance. We would love to answer some extra questions, so please feel free to email us if you have those questions, and we will get back to you as quickly as we can. We hope you enjoy your evening. Again, thank you so much for being with us.